Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Well, I'm not just going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Actually, we're going to talk about the Cleric. Why not? And I'm not talking about laser clerics. That's just D&D meme, just having a bit of fun with you. And of course, my opening picture, my thumbnail that I showed all of you, sort of shows a cleric using what could only be something like turn undead. And the video is actually going to be about the cleric at level 1. Hence, no turn undead for today. I know that sounds strange and a bit confusing because what do you associate a cleric with? Turn the undead. But you don't get that till level 2. So we won't be covering it today. But we will be covering a few other spells because they do have access to spells, full caster, so we can plaster our enemies with whatever divine magic we have. And of course, any race will make a good cleric, but why not start off with a dwarf? I think dwarves make great clerics. Many of the clerics that I have played myself have been dwarves. They might not have had a particularly good run in terms of the social elegant side of things, but they got the job done and they kept the adventuring crew together and alive. So what is the cleric? Basically, it is your band-aid. No, I'm only kidding. It's not your class that goes around band-aiding people and fixing them up, although they certainly can do that. They draw their magic from divine power, from the god that they worship. It is granted to them. Their divine deity grants them power across pretty much the entire world. There are a few areas that they might not be able to have their abilities function, but we're not going to get into that. That's something like AJ Pickett would cover that sort of stuff. So go and check out his channel if you haven't checked it out. Instead, we're going to talk about the character sheet that we're going to use for today. This particular character sheet you can get off the Dungeons and Dragons official website. It is a pre-generated character sheet. It's available to anybody. You can get this pre-generated dwarf cleric at level 1 right through to level 10 if you wanted to. We're dealing with just level 1. So what do we have today? They have the background of guild jeweler, so that means you get to do stuff with gems, which is sort of nice. You are a guild member. I'm not going to cover that sort of stuff really because it's about combat for today. You have a faction. You can select factions. Lord's Alliance is good as any. And then personality traits, ideals, bonds, flaws. Not going to cover those. Great thing about dwarves, they have dark vision. So you can see in dim light within 60 feet of you as if you are looking into bright light. Of course, if you are in darkness, you can also see, but it's like you're looking in dim light, which you're still going to wind up giving you disadvantage on your perception checks, but you can't discern colours. Everything looks like a grey. So you look like, your vision is like a dog. That's essentially what it is. Oh, and I almost forgot, just about every single race in Dungeons and Dragons 5e has dark vision apart from, I believe it's humans and Dragonborn. Unlucky buggers that they are. Unfortunately, they don't get it. I don't understand why the Dragonborn doesn't get dark vision. You also have access to stone cunning. Totally unrelated to being a cleric, but if you are a dwarf, really handy because you get a +4 bonus on intelligence or history checks related to trying to figure out the origin of stonework. Who made this dungeon? It's made of stone. Now I can try and find it out a little bit easier than before. You are a cleric. The life domain is one of the most, I'd have to say one of the strongest elements of the cleric domains, just because of the sorts of things you get access to. I tend to pick the life domain because one, all of my healing gets more powerful. As a disciple of life, I get to, when I do any kind of casting of spells, I get access to 2 plus the spell level that I get to add onto any healing. So if I do cure wounds, healing word, heal, that sort of stuff, I get to add 2 plus the spell level, which is awesome. That means I'm going to do a minimum, absolute minimum of 3 additional hit points that the spell will regain for whoever I cast the spell on. So, and that's one of the reasons, but the other major reason is access to bless straight away and cure wounds. bread and butter of any cleric really. Cure wounds and bless, hugely helpful. And also I get access to the almighty heavy armor proficiency, which you don't normally get unless you go life domain cleric, or you pick up that particular option as a feat, which seems like a bit of a waste of a feat. So if you can pick it up as a class, then why not do that? So this particular character that we're going to use today has an armor class of 18. That's the chainmail and the shield included. I know a lot of people are thinking, well, hang on, Fred, so what's happening with the holy symbol? Well, do I need to be holding the holy symbol when I cast my spells, or can I strap it to the shield? And does that classify me as actually having my holy symbol out and ready to do my casting of spells? Talk to your dungeon master. I won't sort all that sort of stuff out for you, unfortunately. We have a speed of 25 feet. Dwarves are kind of slow, so if you have to run away, you're probably going to be eaten first. We're going to be focusing on things like wisdom. So clerics are really, really strong in this area, and if your cleric isn't very strong in wisdom, then it's probably not a very good cleric, or you've done something wrong when you were building the character. But this has got a 16 wisdom, +3. Proficiency is +2 because it's level 1. We have all of the armor proficiencies, and we get shields. We've got a decent wisdom and charisma saving throw because we get to have our proficiency with that. And we also get advantage on saving throws against being poisoned, which probably won't come up in this particular combat, but never mind. We have our skills, insight, medicine, persuasion, religion, and you can pick other things depending on how you sort of build your character. Brewer's supplies, it's a dwarf, and jeweler's tools. Why not? These are things that are really helpful to any dwarf, and drinking and making jewelry is a good idea, right? Weapons, you have access to the battle axe, simple weapons, and the war hammer. We get damage resistance to poison. Yet again, probably not going to be hugely useful for this particular video, but still nice to know, and that's a product of being a dwarf. Our senses, we have dark vision, as I said, up to 60 feet, and our passive perception is 13, so it's not too bad. Languages, common, dwarven, giant. Yes, I'm getting there, guys, we're getting through it. We have access to a warm hammer. We have a hand axe, which we can use in melee up close, or we can hurl that thing at somebody and make it hurt them. We have access to preserve life, which is a divine cleric channel divinity feature. We aren't really going to be doing very much with that, I believe, in this video. And it also says turn undead, but as I said, you don't really get access to those sorts of things at level 1. Your options for that are very limited. What we do have is we do have a spell saving throw DC of 13, which is pretty average, and a +5 for any spell attacks we make. We have access to the following cantrips: Sacred Flame. I've done a video on Sacred Flame, so you can go check that out if you want to, and I've done a video on Spare the Dying. Dermatology, I haven't really done a video on that. And this is not going to be a video about all the spells that I have covered in other videos. Level 1, we get 2 slots. So once we've cast out our 2 spells at level 1, we're out. We get Bless, Cure Wounds, Detect Evil and Good, Detect Poison and Disease, Guiding Bolt. We're going to cover Guiding Bolt today. Healing Word, I've done videos on Cure Wounds, Bless, Guiding Bolt, and Healing Word if you want to go and check those out. So we have prepared our spells. It's pretty simple how you prepare spells. You just pick what you have access to, and that's what you have. That's it. It's very, very simple. It's not hard. It's usually determined by your cleric level, and at level 1 you really only get 4 cleric levels spells at level 1. Plus you also get your 2 domain spells. So it essentially means you're going to get 6 first level spells at level 1. You also have access to ritual casting, which means you can spend 10 minutes plus a minute for whatever level the spell is, and you can cast that spell if it's a ritual spell with the tag ritual, and it won't use up a spell slot. Kind of handy. Your spell casting focus is your holy symbol, whether you hold it or stick it on your shield. I'm not going to worry about that sort of thing. Okay, so that's the gist of it. And if you want to get all your level 1 spells back, you're going to have to take a long rest. Unfortunately, that means a bit of sleeping and snoozing taking place. All right, let's open up our scene, shall we? And yes, I know for all of you, I have to make sure that I am, in fact, looking at the screen and it has transferred over to you so you can see what's going on. Otherwise, it's utterly useless to you and all you're doing is looking at the character sheet. And I can tell you now, I can see a screen with a map and it looks like a zombie and a cleric and some dice. So I think we're in business. So I haven't made a botch up for today. For those of you who are concerned, I might balls it up since I did do that not so long ago. Anyway, so let us start off. This is the Caves of Chaos. For those of you, the Caves of Chaos are sort of part of Keep on the Borderlands. I use this map quite a lot. So it's got a sort of like a cave location. And our dwarf has decided to go off on their own. I keep saying this. This is just, as I said, not a matter of playing the game smart. This is just to make it easier for me to actually distinguish between one miniature and another miniature when we're doing a video like this. Okay, so Caves of Chaos, our cleric has decided to wander off into the woods. The party's not too far behind and they've come across what looks like a cave entrance. It's covered in blood and gore, there's bones everywhere, it's just reeking, stay away. But that's not what the cleric does. Instead, they decide to sneak up. Now we can make a stealth check, but considering the type of armor that we are wearing, it's going to be at disadvantage. Chainmail it makes the clinky noise. So we're going to grab a 20-sided dice, and I'm going to roll that, and I'm going to add my, that's right, disadvantage. It doesn't matter if I roll the 20. Got to roll the other dice. There's the 4. So I had to take the lowest result on disadvantage with my stealth check. So 4 plus our stealth modifier, which is utter rubbish. I think it's a -1. It's the dexterity modifier because I don't actually have it on this character sheet as a proficient skill. So that's a grand total of 3. So pretty much guaranteed that even the stupidest and most unperceptive creature is going to detect our cleric moving up to this location. So moving through, and gets to here and sees that there is some sort of creature over here. Now, it's up to you whether you have your zombies able to perceive other creatures straight away, but since this cleric was making so much noise, I think it's guaranteed that the zombie will be aware of the noise and sort of be activated. So it goes, and zombies don't always rush at you, but this one is going to do that. So it starts rushing towards the cleric, and that's where we'll open up and roll initiative. Okay, so let's start off with the cleric. Now the dexterity modifier is what we're looking for our cleric, which is utter rubbish. It's like a -1, and I rolled a 14. Well, it's good that I rolled reasonably high. So 14 -1 for our initiative is a 13. So it's not bad. It's not good, but it's not bad. There we go. Let's roll initiative for the good old zombie who's ready to, well, not necessarily eat brains, but certainly to try to kill the cleric. Roll a 20-sided dice. I rolled a 2. Zombies have a very low initiative. It's like -2. It's even worse than the cleric. It's like they came from the same home. So 2 minus 2 is 0. That means the zombie is going to be going after the cleric. We put everything into order. Highest at the top, lowest at the bottom. Whoever has the highest number gets to go first. There's no surprise regarding this particular encounter. So let's write down zombie. And there we go. We got a zombie, and he's definitely on 0. He's going to be going last. We'll put some boxes so we know how many hit points these little suckers have. Our cleric has 11 hit points. Our zombie has quite a few more. They have 22 hit points. I know what you're going to say, Fred, this seems horribly unfair, and what are you doing? It's what I'm always doing. I'm always making things unfair. So Now, our magnet will go on this side. We start at the top of the initiative. Highest number goes first. Our cleric gets to take their turn first. So we got access to a few spells. Now, considering that a zombie is a pretty powerful creature and the clerics on their own, we're not going to muck around. We're going to go straight for Sacred Flame. Nah, I was only kidding. We're going to go straight for Guiding Bolt. Guiding Bolt has a range of 120 feet. It's an action to cast the spell. It's a level 1 spell, so it's going to use up one of our slots, but who cares? Better off to kill the zombie. And it's got a duration of 1 round, and it ends on the next turn. So that's because there's a feature to it that allows for whoever makes another attack against it, provided this thing hits, to get advantage. I'll explain as we go. So let's make an attack roll with our cleric. Roll our dice. Now, line of sight's pretty good. I got a 15. We add +5 for that, which is 15 plus 5 is 20. 20 is greater than or equal to the armor class of our zombie, who has an armor class of 8, like really, really bad. So that's going to hit. We're going to do some damage. Now, the great thing about something like Guiding Bolt is it does a lot of damage for a level 1 spell. And on top of that, it also will give us advantage on the next attack, hopefully that either the cleric makes or somebody in the party makes. So grab your 4 6-sided dice, roll those suckers. Now I know what you're thinking, well Fred, do I get to add my spell casting modifier to the spell? No, unfortunately you don't, but you do get to have 6 6-sided dice, and I rolled pretty high. That's a 6, that is another 6, and am I going to wind up killing this thing straight out? Probably not. 6, 12, 18, 22. Whoa! So that's 22 points of damage. Radiant damage on the zombie. It doesn't knock it down, but it's only got 2 hit points left, because 22 less 20 is 2. Zombie's looking pretty bad. So that worked out pretty nice for us. In fact, that was like brilliant as it happened. I'm really pleased with the outcome of that. Now, we haven't finished. We have access to a bonus action, which we really can't do much with at this particular point because we're level 1, but we can also move. So we're going to move, and we're going to move further away so that the zombie has to come to us. Yes, suck on that zombie. All right, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. I don't know if we're still on the map. I'm certainly hoping that we are. We may have stepped off. Oops, a bit too far. I can't see the miniature anymore. Okay, we'll move them forward a little bit. Make it a little bit easier for you to actually see what's going on. Okay, so the zombie is going to rush out of the cave towards our cleric. It's not really bright. It doesn't use complicated techniques or strategies or tactics, although if you really want to, you could. There's no written rules saying that zombies have to respond a particular way. Our zombie only has a speed of 20 feet. So with our move, we'll go 5, 10, 15, 20. Didn't get very far. We're going to use our action to keep moving towards the cleric. 5, 10, 15, 20. There we can see maybe just a smidgen of the dwarf's hammer just round the corner. This is our opportunity to do nothing more, unfortunately. The zombie has moved. It's used its action to dash, and it really can't do anything as a bonus action, so it's finished, its turn. So that's the zombie. Oh, and we're back up to the cleric. Got to make sure I remember to remove the magnets around, otherwise it's not going to make much sense to you. Anyway, it is time for the cleric to have their turn. So we've opened up with Guiding Bolt, which means it's now illuminated. It's got a nice ring around it. It's glowing, which means that any attack that we make is now going to have advantage on the attack, which is awesome. It's the sort of thing that makes doing a whole lot of damage and benefiting somebody else really, really good. So instead of our cleric doing something, I'm going to say that the ranger finally shows up hot on the heels and decides to unload an arrow into our zombie. Now, I'm going to put the ranger at the bottom of the initiative. I don't normally bring in other party members to help our cleric, but for the sake of demonstrating that Guiding Bolt is a good idea, I'm bringing in the ranger. So where is my little pen? Okay, I've put the ranger at the bottom of the initiative. That's just how I do things. You do not have to put the creature at the bottom of the initiative. You can have them roll initiative and then sort of go from there if you really want to, just to see, you know, maybe they did better. But I think it actually makes more sense for me. You, as I said, do not need to do that. You can just roll initiative for the ranger if you really want to. I've just shuffled them over so you can see there is the word ranger. Since we're not going to need the back of the cave that much anymore. Alright, so we're going to go through and take so the cleric's going to take their turn. Now before we do anything really silly, and our ranger has showed up at the end of the initiative, I'm going to just shuffle it down. So we're still in round one. That way it'll make it a little bit easier to make sense how Guiding Bolt works. Should I put it up there? Okay, so ranger takes their turn. They have advantage. That's 2 dice, 2 20-sided dice. Roll your attack. So I'm going to roll my attack. I take the highest number and I'm going to add the attack modifier, which is a +5 for the bow on the ranger. Okay, so 11 plus 5 is 16. That's greater than or equal to the armor class of the zombie. So we hit our target, which is good. We're going to do some damage. So grab a 8-sided dice for our bow. And I'm going to add a +3 to this because that's the modifier for dexterity. And I roll that. And I rolled a 2. 2 plus a grand total of 3 from our modifier is 5. So whack. That just made it a lot easier to hit our target, as you can see, because we had advantage, because it was glowing from the guiding bolt. And it's going to go down. So zombie is going to go down. Well, that's the theory, isn't it? That's always the theory. So supposedly it's going to be on 0 hit points. Now, but before that actually takes place, zombies have a thing called undead fortitude, which means when they are dropped to 0 hit points, they make a constitution saving throw with a DC equal to 5 plus the damage taken, unless it's radiant damage. Wasn't radiant damage. It wasn't from a critical hit. If it was a critical hit or radiant damage, that would have killed the zombie completely and destroyed it. But if it succeeds on this check, it means that the thing is going to still be functioning. So that was 2 plus the 3, that's 5. So 5 plus 5 for our undead fortitude, that's a 10. So the zombie needs to get a 10 on their constitution saving throw. We get to add +3 to this dice roll. I rolled a 20 plus 3, that's 23. It's definitely still alive. Now, for those of you who've gotten confused about zombies, there's nowhere in the zombie stat block that says that when you drop to 0 hit points and use undead fortitude, that the zombie must actually fall over, and then you make the saving throw, and then if you fail it, then you stay down, and if you succeed, then you have 1 hit point and you can get back up on your turn or something like that. You just make the save. I've had to cover this sort of thing a few times, but there's nothing that says that the zombie actually falls over. Just have the zombie fall over if it actually gets killed and the undead fortitude does not save it. Very, very simple. Or do whatever you like. It's all fine as far as I'm concerned. So the zombie is still alive and we can shift that 0 to a 1 because it's saved. Ta-da! Just like that. Okay, we go back up to the cleric. Now, Guiding Bolt was still active because it only ends at the end of the cleric's next turn, this is now the top of round 2. So after the cleric has finished their turn, Guiding Bolt is no longer in effect, unless you have already benefited from that spell. So for those of you who are thinking, well, hang on, it's going to mean what? At the end of my next turn, that means a whole lot of people can benefit from it. No, you only get the benefit once. So if you use up that advantage on the attack on the target that's been illuminated, you only get it once. You can't apply it multiple times. Okay, so what is our cleric going to do? Well, we're going to do what we should have done to finish off zombies, and that is we're going to use a thing called Sacred Flame. So we're going to move in a little bit closer, and we're going to blast it with radiant energy. Now, Sacred Flame is an action to cast. It is a cantrip, so you can cast it as many times as you like. It doesn't use up any slots. It has a range of 60 feet. It requires a dexterity saving throw of DC 13, which means that our zombie's probably going to fail it because they suck at anything regarding dexterity. And it's going to take 1d8 radiant damage or no damage if it saves. It's one of those things that's like a hit and miss. You either get it or you don't. So I roll the 20-sided dice for the zombie, since it's just been struck by Sacred Flame. It rolled a 1. We add the 3, and that's a grand total of 4. So 4 is less than 13. So you have to get equal to or greater than to be successful. It didn't save. Sacred Flame takes it down. Okay? Destroys it. It's either ash or burnt flesh or something like that. You describe it as you wish. So there's your Sacred Flame. I know a lot of my players don't really like Sacred Flame, but for disposing of zombies at the very end of their hit point range, when they're just on their last legs, Sacred Flame is awesome, and it's a cantrip. So it's a no-brainer to use it. Okay, so let's open up some more fun things. Let's bring in a few more creatures, because that's the sort of thing I like to do, is make things more complicated for myself. So we're just going to rub out some of these things here and talk about and demonstrate some of the other spells. There we go. I don't know if we need that magnet there. We will shuffle this over to the side just a tad more, just to open up the space. There we go. Cool. And let's include a few more zombies. I mean, I hadn't really decided how many more zombies. I just thought I'd keep putting zombies on the board or on the battle mat until you guys say when. You guys haven't said anything. You haven't said when. Okay, so we'll put some skeletons on here as well, just to fill up the room a bit. You guys are going to say something, otherwise I keep putting more out. You got to say when, and I stop putting creatures out. I'm waiting. Anybody, quickly. I'm running out of miniatures now. You got to say when. Okay, fine. I'm putting more out. This is like a bad idea, isn't it? Okay, there we go. More. Okay, there we go. Good. Good on you. Jeez, you guys took a long time. Okay, sorry. Don't want to put too many things out. That would just be scary, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to include some of our friends that should have been here with the Cleric in the first place. And we'll just have a bit of fun, shall we? Why not? So we've got Dritz coming along. We've got our Barbarian. We've got our Wizard. We've got our Cleric, who's going to stay fairly close to make sure they can do what they need to do. We've got a Rogue, who's probably not in a great position for doing anything. And we'll put our Ranger back here. Okay, so there are a couple of other spells we want to discuss. First off, Spare the Dying. Spare the Dying is an action to cast. It's a cantrip, so you can cast it as many times as you like. The only problem is you have to touch the target. It's got a range of touch. You've got to be standing right next to it. And it will only affect a living creature that has dropped to 0 hit points and is dying but not dead. What it will do is stabilize that creature. So if the zombies sort of swamp our heroes in the front there, and then the Barbarian goes down and is dying and needs to start making death saving throws, which tends to be the case, then you can have your Cleric use their action on their turn and use Spare the Dying. So you get up close, you touch them, they are now stable. No more death saving throws are required. Cool. Very simple. I would like to also point out that the Healer's Kit can do pretty much the same thing with any character class whatsoever. So please, if you're playing any kind of character, spend the 5 gold and go get the Healer's Kit. And then you can use that rather than use something like Spare the Dying, because you don't need to be a Cleric to use it. You just use the Healer's Kit. Anyway, Spare the Dying. There we go. Now, I know a few people are thinking, well, hang on, can I use Spare the Dying on something that's a construct or undead? No, they don't. It doesn't work on them. If the NPC or monster goes down and is on 0 hit points, usually they just die, unless it's a special creature that's being used. As a general rule, the Dungeon Master will say, nah, dead as a doorknob, Spare the Dying is not going to save that character because they're on 0 hit points. They're not special as far as I'm concerned. They're not a superhero. They're not a hero like yourself who gets death saving throws. So forget about that. Okay, let us talk about thaumaturgy. Can I ever even pronounce it correctly? Thaumaturgy. Thaumaturgy. Something like that. Basically, this is an action. It's a cantrip, so you can cast it as many times as you like. It's not super useful in combat unless you are incredibly creative and your dungeon master is really open to the idea of you using the spell in combat for some sort of purpose. It has a range of 30 feet. It has a duration of up to 1 minute. So that's pretty cool. Now, I would like to point out it does not say anything about concentration. So it's not a concentration spell. That's always nice. It allows you to manifest a minor wonder or supernatural power of some kind. This is all explained in the player's handbook on page 282. I have not done a video on this topic because it's such a complicated spell. It provides you with a number of options or examples of how you can use that spell. One is your voice booms up to 3 times as loud as normal for 1 minute. Or you can cause flames to flicker or brighten or dim or change colour for 1 minute. How you make that work in your game is up to you, okay? You can cause harmless tremors in the ground for 1 minute. So that means that whatever tremor or earthquake you're trying to cause in the ground can't actually cause damage to monsters. That's essentially what it's trying to say. That's my understanding of it. Does that mean it could knock a creature on its backside or prone so that everybody could wail on it by running forward and getting up close and smacking it? Have a talk to your dungeon master. I think it's possibly a nice way of applying the spell and getting a benefit from it in combat if you really wanted to have something like that take place. But it's really going to, like I said, a lot of these spells require you to have buy-in from your dungeon master, and they are general and not completely descriptive about exactly what they are capable of doing because they're leaving it open for interpretation. You can create an instantaneous sound that originates from a point of your choice within your range, so that's 30 feet, such as a rumble of thunder. I'm not sure a rumble of thunder from the sky is going to work because that's only 30 feet, but maybe down a cave or something like that. The cry of a raven, or an ominous whisper. Whispering noises are always scary, aren't they? You can instantaneously cause an unlocked door or window to fly open or slam shut. Maybe useful if the creatures are on the other side of the room and you want to close the door, although I feel like they're probably just going to... Remember, the door can't be locked. It has to cause an unlocked door or window to fly open or slam shut. So I feel like creatures are more likely to find themselves in a situation where essentially you're just making things go bump in the night. Okay, what else can you do? You can alter the appearance of your eyes for 1 minute. Does that mean you could alter the appearance of other parts of your body for 1 minute? As I said, doesn't actually say anything in the book itself. I think this is something that your dungeon master will have to interpret. And yes, my suggestion to you is, if you want buy-in from your dungeon master to do cool things with your spells, such as thaumaturgy, then I would provide all of the right snacks and delicious things and drinks that he or she likes to bribe them as much as you possibly can. So that is the cantrip thaumaturgy, which I imagine somebody is trying to correct me in the comments in a couple of hours when they say I pronounced it incorrectly. Anyway, Bless. Now the great thing about Bless is it's got a range of 30 feet. It's an action to cast. Don't worry about that sort of thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a level 1 spell. But I have to say that Bless wins battles. If you get into a fight, Bless is the difference between success and failure. And I mean consistent success. Okay? Consistent success, Bless is the way to go. The only problem is you do not want to be putting yourself in harm's way because it's a concentration spell. Up to 1 minute, which is like 10 rounds. That's long enough for any battle. Not going to be a problem. But it is concentration. So put yourself out of harm's way if you're going to cast the spell. Cast it on somebody who's going to benefit from using it. Because what you get is you get to select 3 different creatures. It doesn't actually state they have to be allies. It just says 3 creatures. And they could be it could be Dritzt. Why not? Put it on Dritzt. We'll put it on our Barbarian. We could select our Rogue or our Wizard. But they need to be making attack rolls. It doesn't matter whether it's a ranged attack roll or a melee attack roll. It needs to be some sort of attack roll. Otherwise, it's really not really helpful at all, because what it gives you is a 4-sided dice to any 20-sided dice roll you make when you have to make an attack roll or a saving throw. That's all of them. So if you have more than one attack, you get to add that 4-sided dice to your attack roll for every attack you make. And any time you have to make a saving throw. And that includes the death saving throw. So if Dritzt decides to unload on one of the zombies here, which of course he could. Of course, I've just grabbed all the dice that I would have used to demonstrate exactly what I was going to do in a second here, but it's all right. We'll just shuffle some dice around and it'll all be good, right? Okay, so Dritzt gets not just the 20-sided dice, but also the 4-sided dice when making attacks against the zombies, and got 2 weapons in his hand. It means he gets to make 2 attacks. Super helpful. Super helpful. I know you're thinking, yeah, but it's only a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4. Bound accuracy. Dungeons and Dragons is built on bound accuracy. The difference of a 1, 2, 3 or 4 is huge. So don't forget about using Bless, okay? So that means if... Now, let's get real. Dritz probably doesn't have a +5 modifier when he's making attacks. But we're level 1, so we're making Dritz level 1 for now. So that is a 12, plus the 1 off the 4-sided dice, that's 13, plus another 5 for the attack modifier for Dritz, so that's 18. That's the attack. That's a lot better than it would have been. Now, the more you roll it and the more attacks you have, the more the benefit starts to show up. And of course, in this case, when you start rolling low, that little 1 or 2 extra off the dice makes a huge difference. So, Bless. Don't leave home without it. Great for attack rolls and saving throws. If you need to make a saving throw, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. Maybe it's a death saving throw. Normally, when you make a death saving throw, oops, the Barbarian's down again. I find that unlikely. Barbarians don't go down very often. You normally just make a 20-sided dice roll, and you don't add anything to the dice roll. But with Bless, it affects all saving throws. That includes the death saving throw. So now I get to roll this dice, and I get to roll the 4-sided dice when I make my death saving throw. Okay? That's a huge benefit. So instead of getting 7, which is a fail, I get 7 plus the 4, because I rolled a 4 on the 4-sided dice, I rolled a 7 on the big 20-sided dice. That's a total of 11. That's a success. So rather than a failure, I'm getting a success. Yay, I only need 2 more of those and I'm stable. If I get a 20, great. Now I know what people are thinking is, will the Bless affect how the 20 is rolled? Do I need to actually roll a 20, or do I just need to get the score of 20 to be able to stand up again? Truthfully, I don't know. There are always things that I don't know, but my understanding is you have to roll an actual 20 on the 20-sided dice to get 1 hit point back when you make death saving throws. If you wind up rolling a 20 and you roll, or you don't roll a 20, you roll an 18, and you roll a 2 on your 4-sided dice that comes to 20, that doesn't necessarily mean, as far as I know, that you can get up with 1 hit point on your turn. But somebody will point it out and probably throw me a little comment that Jeremy Crawford has thrown up on the internet somewhere, either in the past or in the future or something like that. Okay, so that's the basics with Bless. Now, Cure Wounds. Hence again, we have a Barbarian who is bleeding out. We don't want that to happen. So one of the benefits of being a spellcaster who's a cleric is you get to heal them. Now, Cure Wounds, done a video on it, as I said. It's an action, it's a level 1 spell. You have to touch the target, so you have to get up close and touch them. And then you get to allow them to regain some hit points. Now that is a 8-sided dice plus your spell casting modifier, which is going to be based on wisdom. So grab that 8-sided dice, which of course I've got to put right over here. That makes no sense. Right, I'll just put there. Okay, 8-sided dice. So you roll that. You add your spell casting modifier. So for the cleric here, it's a +3. Ta-da! So I rolled a 5. +3 is 8. So now the barbarian isn't bleeding out. They've got 8 hit points. They're still prone, but on their turn they can get back up. Hugely useful spell. And you get a few more hit points. Now, we don't track negative hit points for the sake of gaining hit points. That was past versions of the game, so don't worry about tracking negative hit points. The only time you need to track negative hit points is if our barbarian takes damage that's equal to their maximum hit points. So they would go from 0 to minus their maximum hit points. That would outright kill them. That's the only time you need to track negative hit points whatsoever. So that's Cure Wounds, and it levels up. Yes, you can scale it up, you can cast it at higher levels, so that'll be useful later on. Now, you can also do that with Bless. Hugely useful, as you probably can imagine. Now, the last one is Healing Word. Probably one of the most discussed spells there has ever been in terms of, gosh, how is it that this spell even exists? Healing Word is a bonus action, which means you can still use your action if you want to cast a cantrip. You can't cast a level 1 spell or higher, but you can cast another spell as long as it's a cantrip, even when you use Healing Word. It's a level 1 spell, so it will use up a spell slot. It has a range of 60 feet, so you do not have to touch the target, unlike something like Cure Wounds or Spare the Dying. So if they get stuck behind lines, so maybe Dritz is over here, although I feel that Dritz is probably more likely holding the line, and the barbarian eventually winds up here and fighting a whole lot of creatures. Why not? Let's surround him. I'm being unkind now. There we go. All right. And down he goes. Or he doesn't go down. Often healing spells work better if you cast it when the character is down but not dead. Because, one, you're not really missing out on anything. The only time it's a real big problem is if you would wind up with the character being prone and getting further attacks on it, because all of them would be at advantage, which would be horribly bad. But this is an opportunity where our cleric can use, because we're definitely within 60 feet, we'll use Healing Word. It's a bonus action. I'll do that. Why not? And I get to get a 4-sided dice. I add my spell casting modifier. Oh, there's something I actually missed. We're going to backtrack. Cure Wounds. I had written down the notes here. So when you cure somebody with Cure Wounds. Now I rolled a 5. And we add a 3 for the spellcasting modifier, but a life domain cleric gets additional healing on any kind of spell they cast. That is 2 plus the spell level, which is 3. So it won't be just 8. Instead, it's 11. That means the barbarian gets 11 hit points back, which is why being a life domain cleric is so good. This means when we cast something like Healing Word, we roll our dice. I got a 4, which is nice. Add our spellcasting modifier for wisdom, which is +3, so that's 7. And we're also a life domain cleric, so we get 2 plus our cleric level, or should I say our spell level, which is 1. So that's 3. So I get an additional 3. So 3 plus 4, 7, and then another 3 is 10. So 10 hit points back to our barbarian. Now you can see the difference that this is going to make, particularly when it comes to trying to deal with low-level play. Low-level play and a life cleric or life domain cleric is just awesome. I can't say anything more that If you haven't figured it out, I like the Life Cleric. There are plenty of other domains, but I think it's a really good class. Okay, so that's pretty much everything I have. I've been waffling along for, I don't know, a long time. I do apologise. It does happen from time to time. But if you liked this sort of content, please share and like the video with other people. If you're not subscribed to my channel and you like this sort of thing, then hit the bell button and subscribe. If you really want to support me, you supported me actually by watching this video, and as long as you don't have an ad block going, then I'm going to be getting a bit of money from it eventually. I have many more videos and you're welcome to go and check them out. That helps support the channel as well. I don't do Patreon, but down in the description you will find affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon where you can buy stuff online. I get a small commission and that helps support me as well in terms of making more videos. Now, ask your questions in the live chat. Give your feedback. I know that there's been quite a bit of discussion while we've been doing this, so that's excellent. We'll get to you in a second. Otherwise, if you're not part of the live chat or the live stream itself, that's what the comments section's for. You go down there, you type in your feedback, and I usually respond to people. Unless they say something horrible, then I will ignore you. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.